Hi Robert, it's nice to have you for this interview today. And Robert is an international expert for NLP and leadership. And we have the chance to have Robert in 2 weeks' time in Geneva presenting this module about emotional intelligence. So Robert, I have a question for you there. You probably know this article written by Harvard Business School Review, where they said that emotional intelligence is a groundbreaking idea about and for leadership. What is your opinion about that?
Well, I think it's true. I mean, I don't think that there's really any true leadership without emotional intelligence, and especially in the type of productivity and performance that we need from today in today's companies, from people, that to actually get the best of people, to get the top performance, and especially to get qualities such as innovation and collective intelligence, we need to have a deep understanding of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is it's the groundwork for people's motivation, for people's actions. Yeah. I always like to say that leadership, the essence of leadership, is 2 things. In some ways, that the basis of leadership is 2 simple things. One is to provide a direction, not necessarily a destination, because you don't always know where you're going sometimes. I mean, you know which direction you're going, but you don't always know where you're going to end up, especially when you are creating something. But you need to have a direction. But the second thing that you need is energy. So you need, in order to go anywhere, in order to do something, you need energy. And to me, the direction comes more from an intellectual intelligence, but the energy comes and the motivation comes from emotional intelligence. So I think that this whole issue of emotional intelligence is absolutely essential for leaders. In the work that I do on success factor modeling with NLP, where you look at especially today's most successful leaders, it is absolutely clear that one of the differences that makes a difference is their ability with emotional intelligence.
Thank you very much for this. I'm totally convinced by that. But I have something to tell you there.
Yes. Okay.
Is my executive clients are a bit shy about emotions.
Yeah.
And how do I get them, or coaches get them, to embrace the importance of emotional intelligence? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, I think that part of the reason that people are concerned about emotional intelligence is their concern with emotion. Emotion is traditionally considered not rational. And so people think, if somebody gets emotional, they're irrational, right? If somebody becomes angry or they become sad. But first of all, I think they have to realize that emotional intelligence is not just about big emotions like anger, sadness, fear, etc. Although those are it's very important to know how to recognize and how to address those. Emotional intelligence, though, is also something more subtle. It's, again, about finding a shared passion. It's about being able to have a sense of what is going on a feeling level in other persons. Now, again, I think sometimes we find that people are afraid of their feelings because they think that it's going to be out of control, or it's going to be, more difficult to manage. But I think what you realize is that emotional intelligence makes it so that it is much, much easier to address all types of emotions, but especially to be able to motivate people, to help people get through some of these situations where, especially in today's world, where you have to rebound from adversity, where you need resilience to deal with, the realities of what goes on, in a company. So for me, I think that people are often, kind of concerned about things that they're not familiar with. And yet what I think we find is that, especially I know that when I teach emotional intelligence, people begin to become much more comfortable much more quickly because emotions begin to make sense. It's not like you have rationality and the opposite is emotion. You've got both of these things, and intelligence actually requires to be able to integrate both rationality and feeling. And to me, that's where you have the highest levels of performance. Performance without feeling is not real performance. I had an interesting experience. I saw a ballet the other night that was very highly technically done, but it did not leave you feeling anything. It was just like
a technique. Yeah.
And you really realize if there's not emotion in it, the performance is flat. And so I think the same thing is true in organizations. So the first thing I would just say is that I think what managers need to realize is that it's not such a different world, first of all. It's not so irrational. It's not a world of irrational things. That in fact, it's something that they will enjoy once they become familiar with it.
Maybe just a question there, because this question of using or daring to use emotional intelligence to increase the performance of leaders, maybe for you it seems kind of natural, it seems a natural link, but for these people, they have high analytical capabilities, but for them to link performance and emotional intelligence on top of their analytical capabilities might be a little problem. What would you tell them so that they can embrace and understand the importance of emotional intelligence in their performance?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think, as you were saying, this idea of high analytical capability, this is where I was saying that people usually think that that's the opposite of emotion, and that this is going to create a kind of an inner conflict. And people often, there is a lot of examples of how people struggle between what their emotions say and what their reasons say. But the whole idea is that emotional intelligence prevents that kind of polarizing. It prevents that kind of struggle, so that in fact, that we are saying that performance is, the highest level of performance is layering emotional intelligence on top of this analytical capability. It's not getting rid of one. It's not overshadowing one. It includes but expands. And I think this is what we find. We talk about in leadership. You have the brain and pencil leader, who is just the only analytical leader. Then you have the heart and the gut, leader, who is the one that's sort of leading from intuition. But an emotionally intelligent leader is able to combine both. And when you bring both of these things together, that's when you get, we like to say a generative result, which means instead of 1 + 1 makes 2, it's 1 + 1 makes 3. And I think that is what really is it's the goal of leadership today. One of my favorite examples, I was involved in a study some years ago that was sponsored by a very well-known French-based telecommunication company. And this research was to try to understand a major failure that they had recently had, and it was in developing a product. And they knew to stay competitive, they had to develop a product in a particular area of their market and do it very quickly. And this project was so important that they literally put 1,000 people on the project. Now, the failure was that one of their competitors was able to make a better product, so it was a higher quality. They did it more quickly, so they were first to market, and it was more economical, so it was less expensive. So in every key performance indicator, their competitor outdid them. But the most astonishing thing was the competitor did it with a team of 20 people. And the question,
20 people. Yeah.
20 people. How could 20 people so completely outperform 1,000 people? And so, the difference was emotionally intelligent leadership. That the 1,000 people had what I was calling the brain and pencil leader, somebody with a lot of high analytical skill, but no emotional intelligence. So people could only do what they were told. They could only do what, was understood. In the group of 20, they had an emotionally intelligent leader who was able not only to provide a clear direction, but to bring a sense of shared passion, shared enthusiasm, shared vision, and where there was really created a sense of a kind of a cohesion, what we would call a field, a generative field within that group. So you really begin to see that, that's a huge difference. It's 50 times improvement, 1,000 people versus 20.
Makes you think about it.
So I mean, my point is, I think what leaders need to realize is, first of all, emotional intelligence is not anti-rational. It's not anti-analytical. In fact, it's something that I think that makes a lot of sense and that people can learn.
Yeah. Maybe a very last question, Robert. It's about our coaches. Why is it critical, do you think, for executive coaches to be knowledgeable about emotional intelligence? What would you tell them then?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody who is not emotionally intelligent could call themselves a coach. I mean, coaching is about coaching is not inherently just an analytical skill, right? Coaching is about having people overcome obstacles. It's about having people find their own motivation. It's about having people also, be able to deal with potential emotional conflicts, to be able to incorporate their emotional life into their work. And obviously, the main purpose of coaching is to help people reach a high level of performance. I mean, there's no reason to have a coach unless you're trying to improve performance. Yeah. And as the research shows, emotional intelligence is twice as important in performance in most organizational work, in management, especially at management level, than intellectual intelligence. Mm-hmm. So a coach has got to be, aware of what emotional intelligence is, and hopefully a coach is emotionally intelligent.
Thank you very much, Robert, for this very interesting interview. And we are looking forward to seeing you soon in Geneva, the 15th of April. And we hope to see a lot of people attending this fascinating seminar. You'll get all the information on our website, where it will take place, the registration form, and so on. So hope to see you soon there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert, again.